Davis. Oh, he missed the dunk.
The NBA doesn't only bring us great basketball, but a lot of entertainment and fun we can't find anywhere else. Over the years, we've seen some very hilarious moments during games. So in today's video, we're giving you the 10 funniest moments in NBA history. Number 10, Shaq clears out the bench. Standing at 7'1" and 325 pounds, Shaquille O'Neal was one of the most dominating and imposing players we've seen in the NBA, and his presence brought fear to anyone who stood in his way. But it appears that his opponents were not the only ones terrified by Shaq's huge size. During a home game when the big fella was playing for the Phoenix Suns, he chased after a loose ball that was going directly at the Suns bench. As soon as the players sitting on the bench saw Superman storming towards them, they immediately stood up in panic and hilariously moved out of the way, resulting in one of the funniest in-game moments we've ever seen. Usually in these situations, players would stay put and attempt to catch their teammate from crashing hard into the stands, but apparently that's not the case when you have Big Diesel coming at you full speed. And can you really blame them? Number 9, Stoudemire fakes out Battier. There's a time and place for making new friends in the league, but the playoffs is certainly not one of them, especially if your team's down 3-1 and just minutes away from getting eliminated. After committing an offensive foul in the dying minutes of the game in the first-round matchup between the Knicks and the Miami Heat, Stoudemire looked like he didn't care about the whole playoffs not being the time for making new friends thing, and put his hand out like he was trying to help Shane Battier up. However, as soon as the Heat's defensive ace reciprocated, Amari coldly turned around and started walking towards the Knicks bench. We doubt Battier minded too much as the Heat went on to win the championship, but the moment Stoudemire almost gave him a hand will always remain a memorable moment in his life. Number 8, Chuck Hayes' ugly free throw. With so many different players in the league, and each of them having their own unique free throw routines and forms, we're bound to see some pretty ugly and downright unwatchable free throw forms over the years. Joakim Noah is the first to come to mind, but the guy who had perhaps the ugliest and most awkward shooting form ever is Chuck Hayes. This was on full display during a game between the Rockets and Nuggets in 2007, when poor old Chuck was headed to shoot 2 technical free throws. For some reason, as he was just about to release the ball, he lost. Number 7, Otto Porter goes on autopilot. Playing defense can be a hard task, especially in late-game situations. And one thing that definitely won't make your job easier as a defender is if you lose awareness when guarding your man. Otto Porter not only lost awareness but let his brain go on autopilot as he was trying to guard Tony Snell during a tight contest between the Wizards and Bulls in 2015. With about 20 seconds left on the clock, the Wizards were down 3 and desperately needed a stop to have a chance to win the game. Otto Porter had the task of guarding Snell near the left corner of the court. While that doesn't sound all that difficult, Otto made it a lot harder when he decided to focus on the guy with the ball instead of his own man. At one moment, Otto decided to take a look at Snell, but to his huge surprise, he wasn't there and was already on the other side of the court getting set for a 3-point shot. Porter hilariously turned around and started chasing Snell in panic, bringing us to one of the best Shaq in a fool moments ever. To this day, this sequence remains as one of the funniest we've seen. Number 6, Pop's hack-a-Shaq 5 seconds into a game. Greg Popovich is a sucker for a good joke, be it in interviews with reporters, his players, or even opposing players. And after Shaq called him out for using the hack-a-Shaq tactic way too often in the previous year's playoffs, calling the strategy cowardly, Pop could not let that one slide, and wanted to have some fun with the Big Diesel. In interviews throughout the years. Which one is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Number 5, Cousins and Embiid butt slapping. Joel Embiid is known to be a goofball both on social media and with his antics on the court. And while Boogie is a little more serious, he also likes to have a bit of fun out there. And when the two centers clashed in a game between the Kings and 76ers, they decided to have a little fun with each other. After forcing an offensive foul on Joel, Cousins decided to give his opponent a butt slap for good measure as they were both walking towards the other side of the court. Joel seemed to enjoy it and returned the favor, and the two ended up exchanging a few more slaps before finally deciding it was time to focus on the game. Funnily enough, this wasn't the only butt-slapping incident we've seen in the NBA, as we've also seen Grant Hill and Reggie Evans engage in a similar manner a few years earlier. The two were both ejected from the game, maybe because the referee wanted a piece of the action too. In the end, the two laughed it out and headed to the locker room, and only God knows what happened in the showers. Number 4, Michael Beasley knee rub. There's nothing wrong with a good old knee rub. We all do it from time to time, and when it comes to the NBA, Michael Beasley in particular seems to be a fan of relaxing his knees with this ancient technique. However, during this time with the Timberwolves, an entirely different knee other than his own got to experience the warmth of Michael Beasley's hands. As Beasley and Anthony Tolliver were seated on the bench during a game, much to Anthony's shock, Beasley started massaging what he thought was his knee, only to realize he was stroking his teammate's knee. Beasley awkwardly tried to save face with the classic, "My bad, I didn't realize what I was doing," and Tolliver could do nothing but nod his head in agreement. This moment took the meaning of basketball being a contact sport to a whole new level. Number 3, Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo's leg. We all love Jeff Van Gundy, the broadcaster, but not that many people know that he was also a coach in the league for almost 10 years. In his first tenure as a head coach for the New York Knicks, Jeff found himself in a rather unpleasant, yet very funny situation as he was trying to break up a fight between Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning. The two got into a little scuffle towards the end of the game, and Jeff decided to do his best impression of Superman and immediately ran to the floor to try and break up the fight. Being 5'9" and 165 pounds, he's not exactly built like Superman, let alone two giant NBA centers, and it didn't take long for our man Jeff to find himself on the ground as the two big men were still trying to rip each other's faces off. That didn't stop Jeff though, as he was determined in trying to stop the fight, and the only option he had at that point was to desperately hold on to Alonzo Mourning's leg, which gave us one of the funniest photos from an NBA game ever, and his reaction after he got up was just as funny, so we highly recommend that you go and watch the entire thing. Number 2, here comes Austin Rivers. Kevin Harlan has come up with some legendary phrases during his time as a TNT commentator. But one phrase will certainly not make his highlight reel, and that's when he excitedly yelled out, "Here comes Austin Rivers," during a tight playoff game between the Clippers and Rockets in 2015. The Rockets were up by 4 with less than a minute left in the game and missed a shot at the rim to go up by 6. As Matt Barnes grabbed the rebound, he passed it to Austin Rivers, who looked to organize the Clippers' offense. As things began to look very interesting, Kevin Harlan couldn't contain his excitement and loudly said, "Here comes Austin Rivers!" Just 1 second after that, Austin attempted a fancy dribble move, but failed miserably and fell with his face to the ground, resulting in a Clippers turnover. Kevin Harlan could do nothing but explain what just happened on the court, this time with a lot less excitement in his voice. Number 1, Nate Robinson falls over Pierce. Seeing one of your teammates hit a game-winning shot is one of the most exciting things in basketball. Well, not like I'm in the NBA and would know that, but after seeing how excited Nate Robinson was after Paul Pierce hit a game-winner in 2010, it appears that's definitely the case. In a game between the fierce East Coast rivals, the New York Knicks and Boston Celtics at MSG, what do you think is the funniest moment in NBA history? Is there something that we missed? Let us know in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more NBA content.